It was around 9:30 that night when BK finally stepped out of his room and joined the others for dinner. The day had ended, but not the investigation. Something about the scattered pieces refused to leave his mind. SD too had finished for the day, carrying with him the weight of hours spent observing patterns that still lacked a face. The two quietly moved into the drawing room. As BK settled into the sofa, SD laid out the conclusions he had arrived at. The killer, according to him, was instinctive yet frighteningly methodical. Every murder appeared impulsive on the surface, but was driven by an internal logic that only the killer understood. The victims were unlikely to have been chosen at random. Somewhere, at some point, each of them had triggered something within him. His observations went further. The killer was almost certainly stalking his victims through the period of observation, which differed every time. Sometimes it would last months, sometimes only moments. Yet once the trigger appeared, the execution remained identical. The killings were swift, controlled, and remarkably clean. Whether there was one victim or many, the time taken to commit the crime hardly varied. Above all, the murder left behind almost nothing that could expose it. BK listened without interruption. He neither questioned nor challenged the assessment. He simply absorbed it, allowing every observation to settle where it belonged. Satisfied that enough had been discussed for one night, he asked SD to rest before continuing the investigation the following morning. Morning arrived with its usual routine at the guest house. During breakfast, Maya and Rakesh joined them while Balaton attended to everyone. Before BK could finish his meal, Maya handed him a collection of photographs she had gathered the previous day. The images captured numerous graffiti-style artworks created by Angad over many months across different parts of the town. BK immediately sensed their importance. He asked Maya to forward every photograph to him without delay. He then requested SD to repeat the behavioral assessment from the previous night. As Maya and Rakesh listened, independent observations from entirely different directions slowly began aligning into a single pattern. Far away from the guest house, Angad remained completely unaware that his world had quietly begun intersecting with another. His morning unfolded as it always did. After Balika woke him up, he washed himself at the public tap, changed into fresh clothes, and accompanied her to the temple. The temple, however, was overflowing with devotees. Finding it impossible to enter, they decided to leave. On the way back, Balika realized she had misplaced one of her slippers and hurried back to look for it, leaving Angad waiting outside. At that very moment, BK happened to pass by. The meeting was brief and entirely casual. A few ordinary words were exchanged before BK drove away. Moments later, Balika returned only to discover that she had narrowly missed meeting BK. By nightfall, after finishing his routine work, BK finally sat down to examine the photographs Maya had sent. Displayed on the largest screen of his laptop, the artwork revealed a depth that the phone screen had completely hidden. Every image carried unusual emotional intensity. Beauty and disturbance seemed to coexist on the same canvas, as though the artist had unknowingly painted fragments of his own mind. As he often did before retiring for the night, BK slipped on his earphones and played an old Talat Mahmood favorite, Wo Din Yaad Karo. The familiar melody filled the room. His eyes remained on the artwork while the song played softly in the background. Then somewhere within the lyrics, something struck him. His eyes opened. The music stopped. He pulled out the earphones, turned immediately towards the laptop, and began moving rapidly between the paintings and the case files. One after another, unrelated fragments started fitting together. A possibility that had remained invisible until then suddenly became impossible to ignore. Without wasting another moment, BK called Maya and asked her to come to the guest house immediately, alone. He then woke SD and questioned Maya about the source of the photographs. Learning that they had come through a student living nearby, BK instructed that the young man be brought to the guest house immediately, despite the late hour. Before Maya could return with him, BK and SD had already rushed out. Acting on the little information available to them, they searched every lane behind the market, every settlement near the railway tracks, and every place where Angad was believed to be staying. The urgency of their search reflected the significance of the connection BK had just discovered. Unaware of the reason behind the search, Angad happened to wake during the night and stepped outside towards the public tap for a drink of water. From the darkness, he noticed BK and SD moving rapidly through the neighborhood. Instinct stopped him from calling out. Unsure of what was happening and unwilling to reveal himself in this condition, he quietly withdrew into the shadows and continued watching them from a distance. By the end of the night, the distance between the investigator and the man who had unknowingly entered his investigation had narrowed to only a few unseen moments. Neither recognized how close they had come, yet both had already begun traveling towards the same destination. One driven by the need to understand, and the other simply walking the only path life had left before him.
Where stories begin.